Of course, many of you good souls will be perfectly well aware with what's actually going on with the hate crime law that's just been passed in Scotland by Hamza Yusuf. But for any of our friends out there who might be in doubt or overseas, I thought it'd be helpful to just lay it out in some clear terms. And also because I have very personal experience with Police Scotland. And much of what we're seeing now is something I got to see firsthand about 7 years ago now. So the Hate Crime and Public Order Scotland Act 2021, which has just been passed for April the 1st, a new crime stirring up hatred relating to age, disability, religion, sexual orientation, transgender identity, or being intersex. Key point, prison sentence, 7 years. Second key point, one of the ways that a law can be used to just reach its tentacles out and take someone like me, for example, and put me in prison for 7 years is not only are the politicians and police against you, and not only is the legal system against you, but if you make laws so nebulous and not black and white and perceived and believe and a reasonable person could believe, it means that everybody can be guilty. I'm guilty immediately because the state will decide a reasonable person believes that I am guilty, and that's enough. So let me just read you the language. A reasonable person would consider to be threatening or abusive. You see, consider, reasonable. None of this has metrics or parameters. I come from, qualitative, quantitative, but qualitative metrics from the world of business. None of this has any of those quantitative characteristics that mean that you can say what is and isn't this or that. It's just wishy-washy, and it can be whatever the state decides. Stirring up hatred based on race, colour, nationality was already illegal under the Public Order Act 1986, but now they're streamlining it so it becomes part of the Hate Crime Act. And of course, it becomes bigger. Streamlining never means that, you'll know. If you hear the word streamline, immediately be aware that something's been made bigger or more expansive. And of course, now it includes more things, insulting behaviour. So it's now not just that you're stirring up hatred, if you insult someone, that's enough. Or you only have to prove that stirring up hatred was likely rather than intended. So your intent might be that you're doing stand-up and you're being funny and you're being satirical, but someone from the state might think it was likely that you managed to stir up hate, and that will be enough. I know many of you know this, but it's all in language and words that make this applicable to anybody they want to silence for any reason. Okay, that's the law in itself. Second, distraction. So lying, takia, distraction. Distract, J.K. Rowling. Distract. J.K. Rowling, J.K. Rowling, arrest me, hashtag arrest me. You don't believe there's such a thing as a woman, arrest me. Distraction, a massive distraction. I mean, God bless J.K. Rowling, I love her. I love her what she's doing. She's always been highly critical of me. I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less. I just love that someone's standing up and being that. Arrest me then. A woman is a woman. But it's a massive, massive distraction because, sorry to reach back for my paperwork, remember this new crime relates to age, disability, religion, sexual orientation, transgender, intersex. Those are distractions. This is, I'm certain, about religion. Which brings me on to the more important point, which is Hamza Yusuf, a devout, practicing Muslim. Look at me being sworn in on the Quran. Look at me publicising the fact that for the first time we've got the call to prayer coming out of Butte House. Look at me with my religion. Look at me being a good Muslim. Then remember, of course, that if you're a devout Muslim or a practicing Muslim, very recently we had Muslim protests outside of British schools shouting, it's not okay to be gay. if you are more informed about the faith than I am, you will know that homosexuality is not okay if you are a devout, practicing Muslim. And clearly I am none of those things, so you guys will speak better to this than me. But why would Hamza Yusuf, who's so desperate to push out the Islamic messaging from the heart of the Scottish power base, why would he agree to stand up with this hate speech law if it was all about transgender and intersex and stuff that is way off what his Muslim support base or his Muslim funders would approve of? Well, of course, if actually this is about religion, well, then it's all worthwhile. Now, you'd have to be very naive to not imagine we already have blasphemy laws in Great Britain. We do. My fellow journalist, Brittany, was prevented from coming into the UK. In fact, she was hauled off a bus for the crime of, and I am quoting this, I learnt it by rote, for the crime of future hate speech, as yet unsaid, that might upset local communities. And this was 6, 7 years, I want to say 5 years, but it's longer, 7 years ago. Future hate speech, as yet unsaid, that might upset local communities, and those local communities, the Muslim population of London. Future hate speech. We didn't just have blasphemy laws in the UK 5 years ago. We had laws affecting speech you haven't even said yet. Those were already being applied to people I knew, I worked with, I was on projects with. So be under no illusion. What this does is it firms up those unofficial blasphemy laws, because if you apply this now specifically to offending someone who's a Muslim, it includes insulting behaviour. So if you insult the religion, and that can be any number of things, and if stirring up hatred was likely. So only the Muslim Council, so I could be on stage doing a skit and poking fun and being satirical and poking fun at myself, but the minute, let's say, the Muslim Council decided that a line I used was likely to stir up hatred, even though that was never the intention, that would be enough. And I believe that is really the law that's being passed. That's why Hamza is prepared to be behind it, or is being lobbied to be behind it, or indeed is just doing what he's told because that's what he's there for. I mean, he was already put into that role before Nicola Sturgeon had even resigned. So you see what's going along. But I just wanted to articulate it very clearly because it's sort of being so missed in the JK noise, which of course is being perpetuated because it's the ideal cover for what actually is blasphemy laws being passed as crimes that have a 7-year sentence right here in Great Britain and Scotland. And then I wanted to just tell you about my personal experience and why I've known this was coming for the longest time. There are 3 police forces that have always been the heart of darkness. Police Scotland, West Yorkshire Police, and Midlands Police, West Midlands Police. Very, very, very strange things that I won't bore you with have always come out of those police forces 7 years ago or more. And Police Scotland, for example, when I was at my noisiest in a mainstream setting, was always one of those 3, but particularly Police Scotland. Every time Police Scotland are looking into this. Police Scotland have reports on Katie Hopkins. Police Scotland, so Police Scotland calling me on a Friday evening to say I'm being investigated, or Police Scotland investigated, this is about tweets, by the way. So this is about stuff I tweeted online 8 years ago regarding, so I misused the word, whatever is the correct one, I got it wrong. And I still am not clear what it is because they were never intended to be upsetting in that way. Sweaty jock, sweaty socks, sweaty jock, sweaty socks, sweaty socks. Whichever is the wrong one, you're not allowed to say, I tweeted it. And Police Scotland, I was in Australia for Christmas, for a family holiday, and I was called on Christmas Eve and threatened by Police Scotland with repatriation to the UK on Christmas because of a tweet where I'd muddled up sweaty jocks or socks or whatever. That's kind of the detail of the tweet is irrelevant, but I'm just explaining it because it's important for you to see how ridiculous we're talking. They had all the legal paperwork, the documentation. I was going to be returned to the UK, repatriated at taxpayers' expense to face questioning at Christmas over a tweet that with the muddled words, because of that was the intimidation they were already bringing to someone like me. And so does it surprise me at all that Police Scotland are in the mix here? Not at all. Do I strongly suspect these 3 police forces are somehow the heart of darkness that is leveraged against us? Absolutely, I do. Do I see that what I saw 7 years ago is now more clearly being defined? Absolutely. Do I think Hamza Yusuf is lying deliberately on behalf of his religion in order to have blasphemy laws passed into Scotland? Absolutely. And do I think J.K. Rowling is the perfect illusion, the false flag, the distraction, in order to get people to look this way, whilst blasphemy laws that can see you put inside for 7 years at the whim of a reasonable person who believes you meant to be insulting? Absolutely, I do. And I just wanted to state all of that categorically. I've always said my time in prison will come. I think that time, the sands of time fall ever faster on that one. Anyway, I hope you have a good day, week, and I'll see you somewhere on the road.